The Walking Dead Season 5, Episode 13, Forget. I really enjoyed this episode because it was like the continuation of last week's episode where we got to see the characters starting to adapt. And in this episode, we really got to see it where some of the characters, we really got to see some people interact, particularly with Daryl. We got to see him interact with people, or, one couple, of, two people really. But we got to see the rest of the group kind of go to this party and really step into the life of Alexandria, and we got to see it with pretty much every single character and how they're handling it. Most of them are handling it pretty well. Some are kind of in between, like Michonne's in sort of this odd position where she's, either been on her own for such a long time, or even when she was with people, there was just, crazy things happening. And now she's at this point in her life where she can literally, just hang up her katana. And it was cool to see that, like, this episode, just like the last one, and, even the one before it, they have a lot of great moments that happen in the comic book. Some were kind of, verbatim, like the stuff with Michonne, that's pretty much exactly what she did. She kind of realized things are actually going fine, like, things are working out, and she could hang up her katana, and, she wouldn't have to touch it, or hold it, or, walk around with it, in order to feel safe, or feel like she needs it to protect either herself or the people around her. So that was a really big moment, and we had some really cool stuff. I think my favorite thing is some of the stuff that was from the comics that was put into different characters, and the character that got most of that stuff in this one was definitely Sasha, because in this episode we got some really great points of focus for her character, and her not really adapting to what's going on right now. She's still kind of in the mindset of so much loss. Like, everyone's kind of in the same mindset where it's like, these people are kind of weak, they really need us here to help protect them. But for Sasha, it's really different. It's like, it's not just that, Alexandria's really weak and defenseless, and they don't do the simplest things like the Watchtower thing, which I thought was really cool. I didn't think they'd actually talk about it, but as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, there's, the Watchtower, because that's in the comics as well. And in the comic books, I believe it's actually Andrea who's, in the clock tower. So Sasha kind of got her role as far as being the lookout in the clock tower. And when they had the party scene, all of that stuff in the comic books actually happened with Michonne before she was able to really adapt to everything that was happening. Like, she had that sort of freak out moment at the party, and then kind of realized things a little bit later on. But, they kind of split it up, and they gave Sasha certain parts and stuff. And it was cool. I think it fit even better, like, in the show than it did in the comics. Like, for Michonne, it made perfect sense, and even if it happened, in the show, it would still make perfect sense for any of the characters to do it. But when it happens to the character who lost, her own brother and the guy that she was with so recently, and then on top of that, they lost Beth, who was just, another member of the family, it made, the most sense to have it be Sasha's character, where she, at this party, when she really does look at everything and how it was going, all she could see was, like, really, like, the calm before the storm. Like, all the great stuff that's happening, everyone's happy and sitting around eating and things like that. And then, from there, it's hard to just stop and, continue on. But she, because she had to. And she goes from all these great moments to all the crappy stuff with losing her brother and losing Bob and losing Beth, and just having all these images in her head. And I thought it was a really great moment. It was very well done. And I was surprised they made it so short. I think it lasted much longer in the comics. Like, there was, like, kind of a whole spiel and stuff about how crazy things really were. But I thought it was very well done. And she, the woman was like, I'm worried about making you the wrong thing. And that was kind of the trigger. Like, there are zombies walking around and stuff. There are crazy people walking around, too, that will just shoot you or, stab you and chop your head off. All sorts of crazy crap just because, they want to survive and they don't want you to survive. So it was a great little moment. And, her at the end, she's still kind of in the same position. There was really no solution to the issues that she's having in this episode. And it might come up in the next one or the one after that. But I thought it was just really great to see her character kind of freak out like that. And even in the very beginning, when she's going out by herself and she's kind of shooting, and I don't know if it was practice or she was just, going out to kill zombies. I don't really know. But, she kind of freaks out when nothing comes at her. Like, she doesn't hear anything when she's, like, shooting the pictures off the stump. And eventually she just shoots everything down and makes as much noise as she can, and she just sits there like, just come and get me, because this is what I'm used to. Like, I'd rather do this and distract myself than have, this fake happy life and act like none of the, bad stuff happened. But I think someone will be able to talk to her and help her realize that she doesn't have to really forget all the crappy stuff, because, it's impossible to do stuff like that. But, she's in at least a comfort zone at this point, and she can be okay and she can relax a little bit. So hopefully we'll get to see that. We'll get to see her kind of come back from, kind of being on the edge, because she's been that way for a while. She was that way when they were in the episode where they were all like incredibly tired and needed food and water and stuff. And that, that was when we really first got to see it. And so it's still going, and it's been a couple of days. So I'm excited to see how they continue that storyline with her character and what the, big change is going to be. Like, maybe she'll end up saving someone, and, that might be it. That might help her realize that she's in a spot where she can actually do some good, and it helps to be, more sane and not, be hurt so much by the past. But I thought it was a great little moment, or a great couple of moments in this episode. The stuff with Daryl I thought was really well done. I believe the guy's name is Alex. I really can't remember. But them having their little adventure trying to get the horse, I thought was fairly interesting as well. And then, unfortunately, it's like months of work, and the zombies end up killing the horse at the end. And it was kind of a sad moment. Like, it was one of those things where you could tell he had a connection to this horse, because obviously he'd been trying to bring it in for months, and, they have a horse now. And he'd been doing that for months trying to get it, and in the end, the one thing that kind of stops everything else, it was zombies, and it killed this horse, this goal that he was working towards for months. And this odd connection that he had with this horse is now just gone. Like, it wasn't like his pet or anything, but it was something that he knew. He knew this horse. He was trying to get it for months. He'd seen it, who knows how many times in these months that passed. And ultimately it just ended where he got trapped, inside this big pen, and the zombies just take him out, like, right in front of them both. And I thought that was a really interesting moment for his character. And it was a great bonding moment for them as well. And it was cool to see them have this connection where it's like Daryl's like, the outsider, and Alex is like, me and my boyfriend, we're kind of outsiders too, no matter how long we've been here. You still hear some of the stupid things from both men and women, and so we're kind of outsiders as well. So it was a cool way for those characters to bond, and it was nice to see he was able to convince Daryl, like, at least, think about going to the party, and he did. Like, he was like at the house, I believe, and, it was like he didn't go, but as he put it, was the thought that counts. It was one of those types of moments. So I thought that was great. Daryl's going to have a motorcycle again, which is cool. I don't remember at all what happened to his last motorcycle, so if anybody remembers what happened, please let me know, because I completely forgot what happened to his motorcycle. I don't remember if he crashed it or if it just blew up. I have to assume it was the prison, like something happened there and it was, just lost. But, it's cool that he's going to have another motorcycle. The party itself, aside from the Sasha thing, had a lot of other great moments too. Like, we got a pretty cool scene with Michonne and Abraham. And despite Abraham being drunk, he was speaking, he was making a lot of sense with Michonne, saying, like, the katana, even when it's not on her back, it's on her back. And that was kind of what led her to hang it up, really. That was a really good scene. And then, the stuff with Rick when he was, like, looking around the room and everyone, and, like, he saw Carl actually enjoying himself, things like that. I thought that was a great scene. And, of course, him trying to kiss the woman, I wish I could remember her name right now, but that was a really crazy scene. I was not expecting that, and I knew, I knew what was going to happen between the characters. Even if you haven't read the comics, it's probably really obvious. And her husband didn't seem too much of a douchebag in this episode compared to when he was introduced, and he's just, the only lighting on him was, like, the cigarette he was smoking. But he had like, one moment, it was mostly, like, when he was going to get a drink. But it was really interesting. Like, he kissed her on the cheek, and it's kind of nothing for now, but if they do what they did in the comic books, I know where it's going to be going, and you could probably guess, based on the alcohol line, where it may or may not be going, and the way, that was kind of toned. But I was very surprised he actually went in for that kiss. I was like, he's kind of messed things up for himself. He's really gonna screw it up. But I thought that was like a very interesting scene. I didn't know what to think. Like, he could have been busted and, you know, all sorts of things, and it was just like, I can't believe he just did that. But we'll see how it plays out. Like, it'll either be okay or it won't be, and it's The Walking Dead, so I'm just gonna assume it won't be. And of course, Carol kind of going like devil mode on that little kid was really crazy to see, because I was like, I knew she was gonna get busted. I was freaking out. I'm like, it could be like the comics, because in the comics, if I remember right, she didn't get caught. There was nothing like that. I don't think it was even Carol, but you know, it was like no big deal. Nothing happened. They got the guns. Nothing. And it's like, honestly, I thought what was gonna happen is that she was gonna take that one piece of chocolate, and that's what was gonna get her busted, because they of course count, you know, how much of everything is in there, and they know she was the only one who got the chocolate for her cookies. And I thought that's how it was going to be played out, and it could still go that way. It could be that she got busted by the little kid, and she basically said, I'm going to kill you, and you know, he could be scared, and you know, he's not going to say anything, and Olivia could still easily just check, like, oh, there are 2 pieces of chocolate missing, and she only wanted, like, you know, I told her you can only get half a bar or whatever. That could still come right around, and then they're going to check the rooms, guns are going to be gone, and then huge issue between, you know, the gang and Alexandria. So, you know, there are a couple of things that might end up working against Carol. It could be, you know, the boy ends up telling his mom anyway, or, you know, he could end up telling his mom after she gets busted for the chocolate thing. And I really think the stuff with the chocolate is honestly what's going to get her. It's like those really little small details. She took an extra piece of chocolate, and it's chocolate. Like, even if it wasn't being rationed, people love chocolate. They're going to count, like, I have 1 Hershey bar, now I have half a Hershey bar, somebody's, you know, going down. So, you know, it's something I can imagine that's only going to get worse. And now they have all these guns hidden, and, you know, some guns are hidden, some guns they actually have on them as extra guns. Like Rick had, you know, the little piece behind him at the end, which I thought it was kind of weird that he was going to pull that one out instead of just pulling out his regular gun. It didn't make any sense. It wasn't very smart, but it's a little different than the comics, because in the comics, the big thing that happened was that he had a gun in general, because they weren't giving guns in the comics even when him and Michonne became cops. He just had that gun on him, and a big issue happened, and he drew that gun, and it's like, you know, you aren't supposed to have guns in general. And I don't know if their guns are empty, which I don't know why they'd have them if they're empty. So it seemed really weird that he was going to pull out, like, the little gun compared to his regular gun. And, yeah, that would have just outed him right there if he was going to shoot that zombie. But it was a great episode. I really enjoyed the ending as well, with him, you know, having the little stamp on his arm. And he's, you know, in this weird in-between moment. Like, this zombie is up against the gate. It's one of those big things, like, this is an issue with defense where they get really close, and that's kind of the point of the gate, because you can't stop everything. But it's like, that was his first sort of experience of any zombie, like, being right on the gate, and he's just right on the inside, like, I don't have to kill this thing. And then he kind of looks at his hand, and it's like, it's because of Alexandria. And, you know, it kind of took him to this whole different level. Like, you know, really, I'm as close as I could possibly be to the zombie, like I have been, you know, even in this episode. And yet, I don't have to do anything. I don't really want to do anything, because there's this wall that is doing so much to actually protect me that I can't even see this zombie. So it was a really cool ending in the way they had it. We also got a little nod towards, you know, whoever else is out there when they killed the zombie early on, and they had the W on its head. So, you know, go crazy with all the speculations there. One really good one I heard that someone commented on in my last video was that the girl Enid might be working with the people, and like, it's W's on all the zombies and stuff like that. And she has, like, the comic book that she had was like a wolf. It was like Wolf Head or something like that, but it was, you know, wolf. And I thought that was kind of cool. That kind of made sense that, you know, TV-wise, that's exactly how you foreshadow stuff. It's like, here's a W, here's something that's wolf, here's this girl who ends up going out for no apparent reason, and boom, it just makes perfect sense, you know, TV-wise. Like, in any other situation, it's just like, it's a W, it could stand for William. But when it's TV, it's typically the most obvious thing for foreshadowing. So, you know, that could be the case. I can't think of the names of the other cities from the comic books that kind of interact with Alexandria, I don't believe any of them had W's. I know, in the comics at least, none of them were like chopping arms off of zombies and putting torsos in the back of a truck, which is just insane. So, you know, we're going to have to wait a little bit to really get the full answer on that, and whether or not Enid really is, you know, kind of giving info out to other groups. And that's what pretty much everybody thinks, because, you know, why'd she leave? But, you know, this was definitely a good episode. We might get the answer to that, like, not until, like, the season finale or something. But I love this one. I thought it was, you know, I thought last week was the one where they were adapting, but that was, like, step one. This was, like, the full-on, you know, join Alexandria, go to the party, drink beer, and talk with people, and pretty much everyone was just like, let's, you know, kind of stick together. Like, the Noah scene they had was really cool. But I enjoyed this episode, and I can't wait to see really what happens with Carol, because that's going to be a really big defining moment as far as, you know, good or bad happening between Rick and the, his gang and Alexandria. So I'm incredibly excited for that. But I want to know what you guys thought about this episode, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts, and what did you guys think about Carol during that scene? Like, she had, I swear, she had to have been talking for at least a minute. Like, at least a full minute, just breaking this little kid down. Like, you're gonna wake up outside, like, really far away, tied to a tree, and you'll scream, and all this stuff just to really freak this kid out. And it was just like, holy crap. Like, and of course she's putting on this big facade, and I completely forgot to mention that in the last episode when she first got introduced. It was just like, or when she was introducing herself, she acts like she's just, you know, kind of like a house mom, like, oh, I don't know how to shoot guns, and, you know, the gang kind of took me in, and she said, like, she missed her husband and all this extra crap that really isn't true. And, well, you know, she could miss him, but not in the way she acted like she did. So having this complete flip on this little kid could really out her, you know, huge lie as being like this sort of weak woman who doesn't really know how to do this or do that and stuff. And even in this episode, when they went out with her, her lie was that she went out to learn how to shoot with Rick and Daryl. So, you know, it was a great scene as far as I'm concerned, but obviously I want to know what you guys thought, so please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.